Hello, hello, hello. Today I have another incredible guest. I am joined today by Krystle Hurley, and she is a confidence and dating coach. And get ready, everyone. We are talking about how confidence and dating go hand in hand. I'm really interested to learn about this. We're going to talk about why it's so important to love yourself first, when to know to call it quits, how to make dating fun. This is going to be a jam-packed 30 minutes. So let's get into this. Krystle, thank you for joining me.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited. So Krystle and I met through the Thrive, which we've been speaking a lot. I have a lot of speakers that have come in and collaborated on this podcast. So Krystle and I met, and I thought this was a great opportunity to bring you in. And seeing as I'm currently dating, I
Hmm.
am so excited to have this conversation. We connected last week, and it just got me even more jazzed for this. And I think it's going to be really great for the audience. So why don't we start off? Why don't you share a little bit about your background? I mean, a coach, speaker, writer, licensed psychotherapist. You've got a lot of amazing things going on. How do you help people? Why are you doing what you do right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I started as a licensed psychotherapist in 2016. I became licensed, and I noticed a theme with my clients that I was helping in therapy that I really connected with the women that were navigating their dating journey, and they were just attracting the wrong men. They were feeling rejected and like a failure, and that something was wrong with them. And we connected, and my most favorite thing was when they would find someone and then I could help them, like, here are red flags that may be happening, watch out for this, these are good things to ask and stuff. And so it kind of just naturally developed when I feel like I got more honed in on what to look for when you're looking for unconditional love, not just a relationship that might end in a few months.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. What you're saying. And I know before I really started to understand, the law of attraction, before I started to understand some of the connection between the mind, I can look back and see why I was accepting and taking in the people that I wasn't in this constant cycle. So this is great because I love how you're going to teach us and talk with us on the connection between confidence and finding love and how those really go together. Because on this podcast, I talk a lot about, self-doubt, fear,
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, and building confidence. And so I love that we're kind of going to tie this all together here. In your point of view, tell me, I'm curious, how does confidence and finding love, how do they go together?
So first, I want to point on something that you said about how before you recognized mindset and connection and stuff, you kept attracting the wrong people. And they say that we marry our parents. I know you've heard that before. And it's not so much like their behaviors, their activities, their likes and stuff. It is the dynamics between who we attract. So if you think back to past relationships, I bet they may have treated you similarly as a parent did, or gave you support similar, or lack of support, or emotional distance or emotional closeness. Those things might be similar to what your parents gave you. So while we're growing, and the confidence, how it relates to finding love is, I'll quickly touch on our childhood because we learned a lot of things. We soak it up, and they weren't all great things. People wanted us to try harder, or you're successful if you get A pluses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Or if you're, I don't know what that's called, but you're the main person on the basketball team, not not the
The
person on the
point
benches.
guard.
Thank you. so so we got these stories that were like, oh, I'm not good enough. So we have to retell ourselves how amazing we are. And we can start to be our realest self when we instill the confidence and love ourselves and know ourselves. And it's not, doesn't mean that everything's perfect about us. It doesn't mean that we don't need to work on anything or change anything. But what it does mean is that we finally recognize that we are good enough and that we are worth a healthy relationship. And even in our past, if some things haven't gone right, that doesn't define who we are. We recognize it now. And that's the point of working on your confidence as a way of finding true love.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I think that really touches on looking within.
Mm,
So, and I love when you spoke about worthiness, because when I was thinking about this conversation, I'm like, you know what? This ties back with confidence and self-image and what we are ourselves, what I back when, when I was dating previously, and now really I need to determine what I feel worthy of, because there's
mm,
things I might have, people I have dated in my past that didn't work out for the reasons that they didn't. And so how can I not repeat that? So really
yes.
I'm like now reconnecting with, okay, what is it really right now that I value? What can I learn from my past relationships that really worked well? Things that I didn't enjoy, things that weren't fun for me. And why was it like that? Why did it feel that way? I get really curious about all these things. So how do you help your clients start to build this confidence? Like, what are some of the first steps that you do with them?
They will open up, they will talk to me the way they talk to themselves. They will describe themselves the way they're thinking of themselves in their head. So when you can say it verbally, I can point out, like, oh, well, is that really true? Were there times that maybe that wasn't quite true? Or like, I always hear, I know this is stupid, but, and I'm like, why do you think that that's stupid? Like, that is actually a very normal and very common reaction. And just things like that, a lot of pointing out things, blind spots. I like to call it blind spots. They're saying it, but words are important, and words are also in our thoughts, and they just might not be recognizing the way that they're talking to themselves.
So, when it comes to really that connection between building this confidence, really finding that connection with themselves, probably improving upon their self talk, because,
Mm-hmm.
of course, if you're talking down on yourself, if you feel that you're only worthy of jerks that are out there,
Mm-hmm.
that treat you a certain way. And, so in building that connection with themselves, then that helps to really, helps your client, helps anyone understand what they're deserving of. Like, I'm trying to think about here for someone listening to this for the first time. It's really easy to be like, oh, what you're worthy and deserving of, right? Is
Yeah.
language that we really understand. Yet someone that might be listening might be like, I'm not exactly sure what that means. Like, how they might say, how do I know what I'm worthy of? I feel that something that might be helpful is, and something I do with my clients as well, is getting them, like, if you were to dream about your dream partner, like if anything was possible, if you could date anyone, not who specifically, like celebrity would it be?
Yeah.
Sure, if you want to imagine that to kind of start your visual, but really, I know exactly, right? But really it's more like, yeah, what would that person look like? I actually started kind of, I guess, like ideating and journaling on this myself, is like writing the type of relationship I'd want to be in.
That's awesome.
Types of things that you do with your clients as well.
Yeah, the list, many people will say, like, don't keep a list, or, that's really limiting yourself, or your standards are too high if your list is too long. But I use the list in my work with clients. Write out everything you want. I think the next step that I like to take is that then we prioritize it. Like, what are the deal breakers? Put those at the top. What do you think you might be able to compromise on? And, start to scale it from what's most important to least important. And then if you meet someone, if they don't meet the bottom few things that you think you can compromise on, that's different than if they don't meet the very number one thing of wanting a family or something like that.
That's great. No, I think that's really important. And I feel that I don't know, as we get older, myself, being 38, some of my friends also being single in their early 40s as well. Sometimes it's like there's a stigma around having a list. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, you have a list. Oh, he doesn't check all the boxes. Oh, don't you think you're making it harder on yourself? When really, I mean, I'm just thinking about this as you're saying it right now. I may have not, well, yes, I do write it out actually with the things I wrote out this morning and the things that I want. And that list can really encompass anything that you're looking for. But I think what you touched on as well is some of those non-negotiables. Like, what is it that you don't want in
Mm.
someone? Because that can help you when you are interacting with these individuals to kind of identify who's a better match for you or not. Let's go into now a little bit more on loving yourself. So, of course, as we're saying, confidence and finding love go hand in hand, because you need to feel happiness from within with yourself. You need to really start loving yourself before you can love anyone else. So let's talk a little bit more on that. What does that mean to you?
Well, when I talk on this subject, it's about when you don't love yourself, you're looking for someone to fill that hole in you. You're looking for someone to love you so that you can say, "Oh, I am lovable."
Wow. Okay, that let's talk more on that, and where you see your clients doing this. That, I mean, that right there might have hit home for a few listeners. And this is very common. I
Mhm.
mean, I've easily been in relationships where I see that the person doesn't truly love themselves,
Mhm.
and they're actually expecting so much from me.
Right.
I have to fill so many different shoes
Exactly.
that are just not feasible. And anyone listening, you might be expecting this of your partners. And I know I did this in my past as well. I expected my partner to be, there is, I think, this maybe expectation in the world that your partner's like your everything, your
Yeah.
best friend, your confident, your travel partner, your blah, 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 everything, right? And that's a lot of pressure and
Mhm.
expectation to put on someone.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
how
and we can mistake like oh, he makes me feel good for oh, he loves me, and those are two very different things.
Interesting. So how can someone start to maybe identify that they are seeking love externally? So maybe seeking it from someone else versus really seeking it from within. What are some signs of this that our listeners could maybe identify with?
That's a good question. I would say validation, that's a common word that's spoken about when you look in the mirror and you're not sure about how you look in your outfit. But then your partner is like, "Hey, you look really good today." And then you're like, "Oh, I do look really good today." When you love yourself, you're able to look in the mirror and
Mm.
say that and embody, "Oh, I look really good today." And whether your partner says something or not, you still feel that way. That's just one like tangible example.
That's a great example. And something that just came to my mind as well is, how do you find some of the connections between a fear of being lonely and
Mm,
alone and and then seeking out a relationship to fill that? Because I feel that that goes along with loving yourself and being comfortable in yourself by yourself. But
yes.
I know, we all know the term serial daters. We know this. Like, I know people that fell into this category, and have never really given themselves time or space, maybe to really draw that connection back to themselves.
Oh, such a great topic, because we don't like feeling uncomfortable, and loneliness can be an uncomfortable feeling. Like, in this modern age, we are trying to avoid discomfort by all means necessary. And that's why you can fall into being a serial dater, because you're alone and you're just lonely, but you don't have to be lonely when you're alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're able to look inward more. You deserve that time. Like, you want someone else to give you that time. Like, you want someone to enjoy spending time with you. Why don't you enjoy spending time with you?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point. And I think getting comfortable with that, you're right. We avoid discomfort. And sometimes, a big reason for that is if you have a fear of being lonely, then you may have a fear of your own thoughts. Like, you
Yeah.
don't want to be alone because of what's going to happen in your mind. Maybe as you're sitting home alone, you could be thinking, oh my God, I'm such a loser. No one ever wants to date me. Everyone else is in a relationship. We start throwing these blanket statements out, and then we just find evidence, and we basically can just look around and be like, well, I'm here by myself. So clearly I'm not doing something right. Clearly something's wrong with me. But that's so not the case. Really,
Exactly.
anyone listening to that, if that resonates, if any of this is resonating with you, I mean, we got great news. You just got to reconnect with yourself.
Yeah.
It's possible. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to
Everything's going to be okay. Yes.
and you just need to reconnect. I think what's also interesting, and how can people that might be in something, so it's interesting because you could be afraid to be alone. So then you get into a relationship that is possibly not, I mean, bless you if it's perfect, if it, no, nothing's
Mm.
perfect, but if it works out well,
Mhm.
but you end up catching yourself in endless relationships that just aren't satisfying, are causing more stress and chaos in your life than anything else, but you stay in it because you're afraid to be alone.
Mhm.
What advice can you give someone that, maybe, yeah, this is really hitting home for them. They're having some realizations like, oh shit, yeah, this is like, sounds like me. And that's okay. Don't worry, you're not alone. A lot of people here,
Yes.
I've been in situations that I've stayed in. And so, how can someone start to see and identify if a relationship's not really working for them and when they should evacuate ship? Like, when should they call it quits?
And you say how you've been there, and the listeners don't feel like you're alone. Like, I have been there too. We have all been there. This is a learning experience. They call it a journey for a reason. Okay. And if it just is not feeling right, we talked about the list, and we can go back to the list. Like, that can be a compass for you. Check back at the
Mm,
list. Like, what aren't they satisfying on that list? Again, is it things up on high on the list or low on the list? If it's low on the list, maybe there can be a conversation around it. If it's high on the list and they're not satisfying it, I think that that's an indication that you're afraid of being lonely. And all of those statements you made a couple of minutes ago about the things that go through our heads when we are home alone and feeling lonely ties right back into these are automatic thoughts that we're having. We're not even aware of them. But all of
mhm,
those were negative statements that affect our confidence, that bring down our confidence. And it just all rolls into one.
mhm. And it can be really challenging. Also, too, if you're in a relationship and you really want it to work,
Mm,
and you really want it to work, but it's not working. And I like that. I love to use your list as a compass. That is such a great, like, a guiding tool. It's not the be all end all. You're on a journey. So, also too, your list over the years, within a year even, can evolve and change. What's important to you today might change a month from now based off what's happening in your life. So I think remembering that that is an ever growing and evolving list, but that's really great because sometimes when you're emotionally in something, you don't even realize, like, you don't even realize until either you leave it or so
Yeah.
much time goes on that you reflect back. And that's what I felt in my past relationship. And he is not a bad person. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I can see as I reflect back, we dated from say in November till August. I could see that in January, I saw things,
Mm.
like very vividly saw
Mm-hmm.
things and then just ignored it and thought, okay, it's all going to be good. And I mean, we all do this, right? We all end up kind of ignoring some of these yellow red flags that we see. And I find in dating now is I like the term yellow flag because it's like,
Yes,
hopefully I'm not seeing, I mean, if you see red flags, evacuate ship. If
please.
you see a yellow flag, evacuate ship. It's just like, that's basically a preemptive sign of what you're in for. And if
Yes.
you're seeing a yellow flag, you're probably going to see it again. And I think, again, having that list, having an understanding of, what you really want. And it's not like, well, I guess, yeah, I guess I could have, I guess maybe that would be nice. Like, I know that's too much. Like, I know I'd never get a man, woman, whomever, like pronouns you're after,
Yeah.
it's like, I'll never get someone like that. Oh, that would never happen for me. Or no, because you're basing off the experiences that you've had. Like, we are telling you, we really want you, whatever it is that you want, like whatever it is, this person is out there, and if
Mm-hmm.
you start to really channel in on, these desires that you want, then it's going to help you get a little bit closer to it. But it can be challenging. Of course, it can be challenging. It can be challenging too when you're wanting to put yourself out there and you're not really getting, maybe you're online dating and you're not really getting the matches that you want. And I find from experience of like seeing how I approach dating versus seeing how some of my other single friends approach dating is very different. And their thoughts are, and I actually heard this in a Mel Robbins podcast today as well, talking about people that live in like stress and chaotic worlds and how we thrive off that, is I encourage everyone listening to, what is your, let's say, mindset around your dating? Like, how do you genuinely feel about it? And I go into dating feeling good. And I'm like, you know what? This is gonna be a lot of learning. I'm gonna learn a
Yes.
lot. I'm going to be, hopefully not on an insane roller coaster. Let's keep a nice little like ocean wave. Like, it's going to have its waves, ups and downs for sure. But I really see it as a learning. And I find that every single partner I've had has almost gotten, I see it getting closer and closer to the type of man whom I'm after, the type of person I'm really after. And I even see this in my online dating. So it's like, okay, I have new criteria because there's certain things I look for, that are kind of
Yes.
like on my list. Like, for example, open-minded, like positive mindset, like wanting growth, like personal growth. Like, there's certain things that I really value in someone. Likes to travel. So like, these are some of my
Yes.
lists. And I find though that it's really fascinating because I'm I'm finding a way to enjoy this process because I'm actually so surprised and excited about some of the people I'm meeting because they really are checking some of these key boxes for me. And I'm having an open mind. Like, my boyfriends have all looked different, so I'm not, some people have a specific type, like, and we're not saying you can't have that. You absolutely
Right.
can. But I'm really keeping an open mind because I'm like, well, if this person values, there has to obviously be an attraction, but if this person values a lot of the things that I do, I'm seeing like the conversations that we're having are so much more interesting and, we're just more aligned, which is great. So how do you help your clients, see that dating can be fun? Because I'm certain a number of people listening right now are like, I don't put those two together. They're like, no, that does not compute. They're like, dating fun, dating's a fucking nightmare. Like some people really feel this way. So how can someone listening start enjoying this process a little bit more?
Dating absolutely can be hard. Dating is worth it. Like, can we all agree on that? Like, the
Yes.
goal of dating is totally worth it.
Yes.
So, there's one phrase that I just say, and it seems to resonate with people I've said it to so far. So, hopefully, someone will resonate with this but dating is a process of information gathering.
Ooh. Okay, I love this. And I say this all the time. We are information gatherers. Those words come out of my mouth weekly. Okay,
Wow.
so I love that. I love that. Okay, tell us more. So, dating is information gathering. So, what
Yes.
exactly are we gathering?
And that's what can make it fun is like we're scared to ask a question. But when we're like, I really just want to know his answer, like it's less daunting. We're gathering information from him. Or some people talk about testing, doing
Mm.
tests for boyfriends. And as a concept, yes, that can have a negative connotation or like you're being fake or playing games. But
Mhm.
in the world of information gathering, a client just yesterday was telling me how, he always asks me how far, what if they're out at a social place, how far I parked, and would you like me to walk you to the car? And she's an independent, strong woman. She feels safe. She can walk by herself. So she's always declined that offer. She's like, I think I'm going to take him up on that offer next time, simply for information gathering, seeing how he responds to actually saying, yes, I would like you to do that. See if his actions match his words. Like it is so much more fun when we look at it from that lens.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And you're right. It takes some of the pressure off. And it's like, I mean, I'm so curious and inquisitive. So I think anyone that initially interacts with me is like, who is this woman? Like, what is up there? Because I ask so many questions. I could ask questions for days because there's so many different areas that I'm not trying to tap into their mind. So, there's the general things that I actually don't. So I don't know, maybe anyone listening, you probably do, you may do this, but the basic things I don't even ask. Like, what's your job? Like,
Mhm.
initially, I don't like any of those basic, like, oh, who are you? You see them on the apps, but like, what do you do? Where do you live? I mean, some of the apps tell us this anyway, but I don't even get into that. Like, I want to know, what are some of the qualities that you seek out in someone? What are
Yeah.
things that you don't want? Like, it's important, for me to understand what they don't want because maybe I'm one of those things. And it's like, okay, maybe, I'm not a good match. What are things that they value? That says a lot because you start to understand if, for example, let's say family is important to you and they value family. There's so many different words that people can use and what they value. And anything else that sparks my interest on the individual. But I'll ask like, what's challenging about their personality?
I
Like,
love that.
yeah. And because I want to know what they'll say. And it's like, I don't want like, oh, turn it like an interview, like turn a strength into or a
Sure.
weakness into a strength. Like, I want the real thing. And like what I could say is like, yeah, I'm not afraid of an argument. You know what I mean? Like I can be argumentative if I want to be. Although in the last couple of years, I've learned to control my mind. I see things from a whole different perspective. I'm accepting of different points of view. Old Jane was like my way or the highway, but Jane now is not like that. But I know I'm not afraid to say that. Like, yeah, I'm not going to shy away from a disagreement. Like, let's go, but I actually now have the mental capacity to handle the situation differently. Mindset's all about like changing how you react to situations. So I'm
Yeah.
able to do that now. But maybe I said some questions that people are like, oh shit, I gotta write this down, because these are important. Like for me, I'm looking to connect with someone deeply. Like I'm looking for a true, genuine connection. And actually, take a step back from that. You might have heard those questions and you may not be able to answer them for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be able to, again, this is the reconnecting with you, reconnecting with what's important to you, is like knowing what you value.
Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
creating
That is
this,
the that is the first exercise I do with clients.
yeah, really understanding that. And then
Yeah.
also, this all too, all these things can go on your list. So that's like
Yeah.
so great. I absolutely love that. Okay,
What
so
what
sorry,
I
go
love
ahead. Go
about
ahead.
what I love about what you described is like chemistry versus compatibility. Because
Ooh.
chemistry, like we already swiped right. We already feel a little bit of chemistry, but that is not enough. We can't go on dates and establish a relationship only on chemistry. Questions, gathering information, getting curious is about also seeing if you're compatible.
Oh, that's so good. And I know, I know exactly. I was like in a relationship for a few years with someone that it was more so on the like definitely
Mm,
like the chemistry side. And it was almost like when you meet them, you're like, oh my gosh. And you're
totally.
like, oh, you're so handsome. Oh, I've never dated someone like you. Oh my gosh. And then like I was in La La Land, like literally. And then it was like snap, like I didn't need to be snapped out. But just we walk, like we lived together. We walk around my place. I just look at him and be like, how did you get here? You know what I mean? Like but now but I can look back on that and I know that there's certain things that I really value in a relationship that this individual did not feel, and he was authentically him the entire relationship. So it's not like something changed.
Mhm.
It was me. I had lost the connection with what I really wanted and got really googly eyed over the chemistry. So that's a really good point. So really honing in on what it is, that is important to you so that you
Yes.
can see about that compatibility. Because at the end of the day, compatibility is like what we're really seeking most.
Yes. For the long lasting, genuine, unconditional love.
And when you have that with the right individual, I feel when the energy is right, the chemistry is there. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
it's going to happen. And I'm seeing now, as with certain people I'm matching with, there's definitely ones that I can see right away. It's like, whoa, okay, feel this more chemistry. And then there's others that it's like a slower burn that's like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, wow, I've never connected with someone's mind this way. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, fascinating. Okay, this is so great that we crammed a lot into this today. This is absolutely amazing. So, what would you say as a final kind of takeaway here for anyone that is, and some of the things we spoke about today, like it can apply if you're in a relationship, these are
Absolutely.
things
Yeah.
that, to start to make sure you're not losing that connection with yourself. But what's something that you want everyone to leave with today when it comes to finding love and reconnecting with yourself?
In conclusion, I want people to speak up. I want them to know what they want and I want them to say it because people keep it inside because they don't want to wreck what's going on. But that's not compatibility. That's not long lasting. That's stuffing it inside. And we know what happens when we stuff it inside too long. So, building that confidence so that you are able and willing to speak up on the things you know about yourself, the things you need, and trusting the journey. You speak up and that relationship ends, it was supposed to end, and you are on a journey and you learn something from that and you can build confidence because you did speak up for what you wanted. It all goes together, and the faster that you find out that you two aren't compatible, the faster you're on track to find your happily ever after.
Oh, that's such a great way to wrap this up. I love that. And it can be, I know it can feel challenging to speak up. It does not always feel easy. And, especially when you've never done that, if you're in a relationship or if you're
Yeah.
starting something brand new, that's actually the perfect opportunity, I feel, because it's like these people don't really know you.
Yes.
You could be whoever. This is the greatest part about meeting new people. You can be whoever you want to be. You don't got to be anything of what you were before because you're starting something new. So if you've always wanted to be someone different in a relationship, every new person is an opportunity to be that new person. And yeah, speak up. Like know what you want, know what your non-negotiables are. I'm not afraid to say them to people because I don't want to get trapped in something, not trapped, but I don't want to get into something where I could have easily avoided by saying what I want and didn't want. So, Krystle, this was amazing. I'd love
I
for you
so
as
enjoyed
well.
this.
Share with everyone where you show up, like how can they get in touch with you? I'll have all your links and everything in the show notes, but where are you and how best to connect?
Thanks. My most favorite social media is Instagram, and everywhere I'm at is at Krystle Hurley, which my name is spelled very uniquely. So thank you for writing it in the show notes. Yeah, I would say find me on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you again for being here today. I am so grateful and I learned so much.
Loved being here, and I will see you in a couple days.
Absolutely.
Bye.